If you're not doing some kind of strength training and you feel like you're having a hard time accessing maximal effort, you probably should do some kind of strength training because that's what it's for. It's for learning how to recruit your muscles.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Struggle Climbing Show. It's me, Ryan, your host, and I am back in the podcast/utility closet to bring you another red hot pro clinic. This one featuring a returning guest of ours, friend of the show, Jesse Firestone, Coach J Fire. And this one, the theme of this pro clinic here is top 10 bouldering questions as submitted by you, the listeners of the struggle. And also we put it out on social media. And so Jesse's followers, my followers, random people who came across our feeds during the time of open questions. We got a ton of questions. Y'all sent in some really, really thoughtful ones, very specific thoughts or questions or issues that you're having about like a specific project that you're on, to much broader things about training, about recovery, about tactics. So many great things in here. So anyway, we're going to go through those in just a bit here. 10, and actually we got to more than 10 because Jesse was well caffeinated, and so we got to the main meal of questions, and then did a flash round at the end where we touched on some other topics and subjects, and I got a ton out of this. Jesse's been coaching for a long time. He's an elite climber. If you follow his stuff on Instagram, he also has a podcast. He does stuff with Camp for Human Performance, and he's been a guest on other podcasts. Anyway, if you've been following along, Jesse's super, super thoughtful. He's very experienced as a climber and as a coach, but he's also very thoughtful. He wraps in a bunch of economics concepts into this conversation. You thought you were coming for Boulder Bro Beta, and you're going to leave here with a deeper understanding of economics philosophy that'll probably impress a couple people at the bar this weekend. So thank you, Jesse, for that. And without further ado, I think we'll just jump right in because this one slaps from start to finish. And if you're looking to take your bouldering game up a few notches, it's not just the obvious stuff that we cover in this conversation here. There's a lot of really interesting, surprising, nuanced topics that Jesse digs into. So let's dig into it right now with Coach Jesse Firestone. Hey, you looked really good on that 513, man. The movement looked super cool on that.
Thanks. Yeah, I find in the last chunk of years when I go back to sport climbing that I am really trying to do it like a boulderer, and I like work it to death and make it look really pretty. And it's probably been since 2019 that I got into that like scrappy, like it's okay to onside it a little bit, like fight through the crux and then like just stay chill, which is much more of a sport climber, like warrior mentality. And I'm like trying to get there. I don't know if I'll actually get there this summer, but
man, talk about shit in the night. I'm literally trying to become a boulderer right now, and you're becoming a sport climber. This is great. We could have a whole episode just about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to be a dad in November, so I think I'll have less time to go do big days at the crag. So I'm kind of trying to do a little sport red pointing. I think I'll probably be able to do some of it still, but like, especially in the early days, bouldering is just so convenient, and we have a lot of bouldering here. So I'll probably just do more of that. So trying to fit it in.
Yeah, it's definitely easier, especially like we've got a kid in a pram or a little basket or one of those little tents or something to sit them and take a 30-second rip than it is to epic on a 25-minute, 10-bolt route or 15-bolt route. Yeah. But man, that's exciting. Congratulations. I knew it was happening. I guess I just didn't realize it was happening so soon. I mean, November's coming, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I'll get a little bit of fall season, but yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up quick.
Oh, so. It's exciting. It's the best. It's just
I'm totally excited.
Yeah.
I feel like every time I talk to like parents or like talk to my parents or like people I know who are parents, they're all stressed and like worried for me. And they're like, it's going to be so hard. You're never going to sleep. And I'm like, I'm just excited, man. Like, don't stress me out. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. I mean, the sleep thing is legit, but I am a better rock climber, a better human, more happier and kind of more fulfilled, and feel like I have, more purpose in every day that I have since having kids. So
nice.
I will try to counter some of the, that's just parents thinking the grass is always greener on the other side. They're just tired.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're time management skills improved, because that's one thing that I am like hoping for.
Oh, they're so good. I'm so dialed, dude. I'm much more a slave to the schedule now than I ever was. So, what you lose is just like kind of
Freedom.
The freedom, the unlimited kind of option of waking up and just being like, where will the wind take me today? Like literally I go to bed and I know I have every minute of the next day planned, but I got 2 workouts in today, like I didn't miss.
Nice.
Yeah, I just have to kind of be pretty disciplined about it. But I feel like you're going to excel in that department. And they got no worries about you. Some parents you see and you're like, oh, this isn't going to go well.
Yeah, we started really getting our poop in a group in the last like few weeks, and I'm starting to feel better about it for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, super excited for that new part of your life, and also for your sport climbing season that you're in right now. That's exciting. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about bouldering, which is very important for me. That on my journey. Let's talk about my journey for a second, Jesse. Trying to make me a boulderer. Okay. We got some really good questions in. We opened it up. I love that you were like, I hope we get questions. We got 1 million questions. And for the most part, I thought they were all pretty thoughtful. What'd you think? Yeah,
I'm psyched on these questions. I had a hard time kind of narrowing it to things that I thought would be most valuable, like broadest appeal, but also things that things about too. So we can try to like chat about stuff. And
I don't know anything.
Yeah. And there might be some that we can give that I can even try to. It's definitely my kryptonite, but I can try to give short answers to if we want to try to get through some more of them. We'll see.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, this is super ambitious because we were like, let's narrow it down to 10, and we got like 20 on here. But you put lightning bolts next to some of them, so that's the flash round. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how far we get.
I don't think either of us are known for our brevity, so we should just jump right in and see what we can cover here before I have to go pick up my daughter. Okay, so just for the listener, we put out questions. This is an episode for you all. This is a Q&A with Coach Jay Fire. You all sent these questions in. They're great. Jesse's taken a look at them and so that he can be thoughtful with his responses. And we've also kind of roughly put them into an order, although right before you hopped on, I rearranged a couple just to throw you some curveball.
Okay.
So
yeah, your editor may hear some scrolling as I try to get to my notes then, but it'll be fine.
Okay, let's dive in. I'll read the question. I think just for purposes of flow, I can read the question, hand it off to you, and then you can ping pong on it as long as it feels like we're still covering good territory. So Sean writes in, when bouldering, I feel like I can't access my power. I know that I'm physically strong enough for the moves, but I can't seem to find that quote on unquote switch. Do you have any tips for maximal effort? Thank you, Sean. Literally like my number one struggle right now. So appreciate this first question up.
It's a good question, and it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. So I definitely have like my go-to answers to this question. So if I was working with Sean, then I would definitely want to ask him about his training habits, and I would want to ask him about his visualization habits and about like what his sessions are like. And the reason I would ask about those things would be like, I think those can all be good ways to kind of find an entry point into learning how to hit maximal effort. So like visualization is my favorite because I think in climbing, visualization gets a bad rap of it's about like this very factual, like left, right. It's like about what you do. But I really think visualization can be about how you do the thing. So if you're looking to create maximal effort on the wall, I think that has to start in your mind with like really feeling like aggressive and powerful when you're climbing. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously important for bouldering. I also find that really useful in sport climbing to just like visualize myself being chill or to visualize myself like leaving a rest, being really aggressive, things like that. So that's number one, visualization.
And number just sorry to tease that out for a second. Are you visualizing like a hard move and you trying really hard on it, or are you visualizing an ex-girlfriend that really upset you and you're trying to get like pissed before pulling
No, the former.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about motor imagery here. So literally trying to sort of predictively understand how you're going to use your body to solve the problem. So as you get more familiar with a boulder, you're going to be able to tap into that a little bit more. And there's a lot of different ways to visualize. I'm not going to get into a huge deep dive on that right here, but even as simple as like when you're running through your sequence in your head, just being like a lot more like gritting your teeth and like, I'm going to do that move. And I'm going to like try really hard to like hold on to that hold and feeling it that way in your mind and not running through your sequence like, and then I like reach up and grab the pocket, Because most of the time when you visualize it like that, you're like, I reach up and grab the pocket, and that's when I fall. It's like, well, imagine that. You didn't try very hard,
Right.
So you fell in your mind, and now you're going to get on the wall and you're going to fall on the wall. You kind of have to make it feel the way that it's going to feel in reality, I think. Try to get those things closer together.
Appreciate that. Okay, great.
Well, my next bullet point is maybe more related to what you were saying, which is I will try to create some aggression. And so if I was trying a big dyno or something with a really sharp hold, I'm someone who has no qualms about yelling or grunting or like breathing hard and trying hard. I think those things come naturally to me. Some people don't have that as part of their nature as much. So maybe learning how to and trying a little bit more to do that might be more comfortable like outside by yourself than like in a gym,
Right.
But deliberately trying to create some aggression, both before you do the move, maybe even on the ground before you pull on, trying to psych yourself up. You're not going to go into like a 1 rep max deadlift all chilled out and like listening to smooth jazz. Like you're going to be like fired up with some metal in the headphones and stuff like that. So same thing. You want to create the right environment to try hard in.
Yes. What do you do? Yeah. Just curious. Like what's your go-to there? Are you just like smacking yourself? I saw Alex Magos like flashed some climb recently, and his friend Chris came up to him right before he got on and like gave him a real hard smack to his bare back, and and then they kind of like let out a grunt. And I was like, oh, maybe that's the thing. Maybe I just like need somebody to smack me or whatever. I don't know. Now I need to like practice my aggression.
That's interesting. That probably could work. And if you ever watch like powerlifting or people doing odd lifts or grip strength competitions, things like that, like they're definitely yelling at each other and psyching each other up. Maybe not hitting each other physically, but there's a lot of like community and like social aspect to that sort of aggression, which I think is valuable. I am definitely like the power phenotype. So it's way easier for me to psych myself up to try super hard than it is for me to psych myself up to be smooth and like economical. So I don't do as much of that stuff, but when I'm sport climbing, I do find sometimes if I'm like leaving a rest and going into a crux, it does help me to like smack my hand on my thigh after I chalk up instead of just blowing the chalk off, things like that.
Yeah.
In bouldering, I'm usually like doing my visualization and getting really aggro in my mind, and then I'm just like pulling onto the wall, and that's all I need most of the time.
Dig it. Yeah. Great practical tips. Is there a third?
I have kind of two more things. So
cool.
From the physical point of view, if you're not doing some kind of strength training and you feel like you're having a hard time accessing maximal effort, you probably should do some kind of strength training, because that's what it's for. It's for learning how to recruit your muscles. If you are doing some strength training, you maybe could explore like lower rep ranges with higher weights. That's going to teach you how to really tap into more muscular recruitment, more try hard. And then the other thing maybe on the physical side would be plyo. Plyo is really good for creating power and aggression. So
what's plyo?
An easy thing, plyometric training. So it's be like jumps, velocity work. So like pulling, doing like, velocity pull-ups, or even like using a band to deload yourself a little bit so you can do an even faster pull-up. Some people like campus boarding. I'm not a very big fan of that. I don't really consider that proper plyo. The easiest thing would be doing some jumps. So like people usually go to box jumps, which I think is actually pretty intimidating for a beginner. But even like a broad jump, which is just standing in place and then jumping as far forward as you can. If you just did a few sets of a few reps of that, like once a week, but you track how far you're jumping. So have a friend like put a little marker, and then you can either measure it, or if it's like at a home gym or something, you can just like leave a cone. So like I'm trying to jump across my street in 3 jumps right now. That's my current like jumping goal. And well, when you have a goal like that, you know that you're trying to get better and get more powerful at the thing. So if you just are like, oh, I'm jumping on the box, I'm jumping on the box, I'm jumping on the box, it's not really getting you to maximum power. You need something that's trying to push you to go just another half an inch.
Right.
So that's why I have the jump across the street thing, because I'm already pretty powerful. So I have to really like push myself. And that's where I don't love box jumps as much for getting started with it, just because if you biff it trying to jump onto a higher box, like you need to kind of learn how to do the jumping and learn where your limits are before you start trying to go higher and higher. But distance is a little bit safer, I think.
Oh man, now I cannot shake this image of the old Atari Frogger game of you like hopping across your street, and then like a bicycle goes behind you, and then a truck goes in front of you, and then there's like a lady pushing a stroller.
Fortunately, it's just suburbia, so I'm safe.
Yeah. Well, soon you'll have the stroller yourself. So
true. In
terms of applicability of that, though, like how does a wide jump or a box jump apply to trying hard on a rock climb?
It's more, so first of all, powerful climbing movements almost always start with your legs, or they should really. I'm going to say 90% of powerful climbing movements, you should be like using the arms to redirect the center of mass to somehow create power from the legs, right? Your legs are just way more powerful than your arms. So being able to jump is directly beneficial. It's not like a tangential thing. But I'm more approaching it from a like athletic development standpoint. Like, can you get ready to do a jump and then be really powerful on command? Because if you can do that, then you're going to learn some strategies for tapping into that, and you'll be able to come back to them on the wall.
Yeah. Very cool, man.
Can I say one more thing? I have one more short one.
This is great. No, I'm loving all of it.
If your sessions are long and you're having a hard time tapping into maximal effort, so you're like trying problems that are hard for you, but you're just like giving it tries. You have nowhere to be. You have no limits basically on how much you can try it. Just constrain the number of tries, either per problem or constrain the total session. Maybe this goes back to the like parenting and time management thing that we were talking about. If you just have less time, fewer tries, you have to try hard. You can't mess around. So if you're just in there freewheeling it, constrain yourself and try freaking hard and get something done with the time that you have.
Yeah, cool. Little scarcity mindset there. I only get 2 more rips on this thing. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Sean, for that question. I got a ton out of that. Thank you, Jesse. Really thoughtful and something that's I've struggled with really as a route climber. It takes me a while to kind of get that like grr wound up, and I'm trying to learn to access it faster. I love all those tips. Thank you. And then I'll just also have a friend smack me. Okay, moving on to Corey. Corey says, hi, Jesse. I find grades to be motivating sometimes, but it also at times keeps me from feeling good about Ascend if it's like, quote, below, unquote, my grade, or I might not even try a boulder if it doesn't feel like it'll be a progression for me. With your clients, how do you try to coach them about the whole grade thing? Oh, can of worms here. Let's go. Yeah. Grades.
But one of my favorite topics, because I think it's so valuable for feeling fulfilled with our climbing to have a good relationship with grades, because I've heard some people say like they're not real or like just ignore them, don't think about them. But I don't think that's a good strategy, because they are kind of necessary. Like we do need them for some things. We need to know if the challenge is appropriate. We need to know what we're getting into if we're traveling and stuff like that. So can't just shake them off completely. What Corey's saying, that he like might not even try a boulder if he feels like it might not be like worth it, that's an example of what they call loss aversion in behavioral economics. So the technical definition of loss aversion is you feel the pain of losing something more acutely than you feel the pleasure of an equivalent gain. So like losing $100 is much worse, takes you like much further down than gaining $100 unexpected dollars would take you up, basically, right? So like doing a V9, or if that's like a decent grade for you, do a V9, you feel like, okay, you're like, yeah, I've done a bunch of those. It's like, okay, but not doing that same V9, you just feel so bad about yourself, right? But it's like the same thing either way. So it's really strange that we're like that hard on ourselves about it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I try to remember, is loss aversion is like a real part of our brain that's kind of built in.
That's like evolutionary psychology or something like that. Is like, okay, this is
behavioral
something
economics
that we're going to experience. Yeah. You got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a feature of the human brain, basically.
Okay.
Second thing, and hopefully that leads to this, would just be to not think about where you are in climbing as being, there's this linear spectrum from 0 to 17 or 15D or whatever, and you're somewhere on that spectrum. And so the grades are below you, or you are above or below the grades, right? I would urge people to think just more broadly and more orthogonally would be the word I would use. So there is a spectrum, but you exist somewhere independently from it on like a 3-dimensional space. You know what I mean? It's like way more complicated than just that linear spectrum. Like it's not like deadlifting, where if you can deadlift 300 pounds, then deadlifting 250 pounds is below you, right? It's more like dance, where a dance can be more or less complex, but a really good dancer can make a very basic dance look super good. And a really basic dancer might be able to do a complex dance. It's just not going to look as nice, right? That's more like what we're doing, but they don't grade dances. So it's not like a direct analogy. So as far as how I actually coach it, what I encourage people to do is what I call skills, not grades. And skills, not grades is basically, you look at the problem. Yes, it has a grade, but there's a reason it has that grade. It's composed of challenges and movement tasks that you need to solve, right? And solving those movement tasks is what I would encourage people to focus on. What are the holds like? What are the moves like? What are the positions like? How's the friction? How does your body need to move in space? All of these other pieces of information that contribute to the grade, but focusing on those pieces, those discrete tasks is way more effective both for your progression and also for just feeling good about yourself as a climber. Because like, if you understand why you feel like you're below or above a certain problem, instead of thinking that you're below or above the number that's attached to it, it's just way easier to go away and work on whatever that thing is, right? So that's how I coach it in a nutshell.
I guess my follow-up would be on that, because the next question comes into this a little bit. But when you're working with clients where you're coaching them, so you're actually checking in with them once a week or whatever kind of the regular cadence is, are there little mini tools or steps that you're using along the way when there's friction on kind of adopting that perspective or mindset?
Mostly, I would say it's more conversational. And I think that my job is to work on nudging people towards working on the right things. So if they have a really hard climbing experience and they're constantly sort of thinking about it in a grade perspective, I'm going to urge them, I'm going to help them break down what the actual movement tasks are that they're struggling on. And we're going to work on those things, right? But then also I'm going to try to help them with the way that they think about it and talk about it. So if they're, if somebody comes to me and they send me a message, they went out climbing and they come back and they're like, hey, I got my ass kicked on a V8 today. And that's the whole message. Then I'm going to be like, what was it about the V8 that you found challenging? Like, tell me about what was actually happening while you were on the wall or in between attempts, that you found challenging. And we're going to find some details. And then I will usually try to have people sort of rewind and rewrite that message to me, to the point that when I work with people for a couple of years, I mean, they usually start making gains in these things. And so they notice, right? They'll just come back and they'll just be like, try to crimp boulder today. It went way, I can't believe how much better my crimping is than it used to be or whatever. And I don't even know what the grade of the boulder is unless I ask them, which is almost kind of how I would prefer it, because it's a sign that they're starting to think about things in that skills sort of oriented way. Although I do always want to know what the grade of the boulder is too, obviously. I mean, this is an important thing with progression, is it rarely happens while you're looking at it. It's something you notice in the rearview mirror. You just work on it and work on it and work on it. And this is going to happen to you with bouldering. You're going to eventually climb a boulder or climb a few boulders, and you're going to be like, whoa, I can't actually believe how far I've come. I didn't realize that was happening, because most days are average and you just don't realize that anything interesting is happening. But then when you look at the, 1 or 2 year rear view mirror, you're like, oh, wow. Yeah. I got a lot better at these certain things that I was trying to improve at.
Very cool. Well, this next question from Brian might tie into that a little bit here. Brian says, I just listened to an interview with Mark Hudon where he talks about going up the Salathé knowing they wouldn't free all of it. What do you think the value is, if any, of starting a project knowing you won't send? And a little shout out there. I think that was a Mark interview on Written in Stone, a podcast that Chris Hampton does. A great history podcast. So yeah, Mark Hudon, obviously one of just the titans of the Yosemite era. So cool. Yeah, cool question and cool perspective. Starting something that you won't send. Have you ever done that?
Oh yeah, all the time. I think it's a feature, not a bug, of very progression minded climbers, that they just don't even really think about that question. They just sort of go try stuff. And I'm not sure how much of that is a learned thing or a personality thing. It's probably some of both. And I think I'm predisposed to it because where I started climbing and the people I started climbing with, I was in rural Oregon. So developing was just part of what we did. There just wasn't that much, infinite climbing to do. And so we did a lot of first ascents. And so when you do a first ascent, you just have no idea if it's possible or how hard it is or anything, right? So that was a normal feature of the experience for me.
Yeah.
But I think the key word that Brian used is value. What is the value of starting a project knowing you won't send? Because he's really tying the idea of sending and the idea of value pretty tightly together. And I think this is kind of skills, not grades. For me, I'm way more interested in the process of trying to climb things than I am in the eventual outcome of sending it. Even though I do want that, the process is where the gains are made. The process is where I'm actually spending my days. I can't live in the moment that I'm sending a boulder, right? I'm living my life in the process of trying to send a boulder. And so I'm much more interested these days in what that process looks like. So if I ever want to climb something, or if I think it's cool, I'll try it. And I don't worry too much about whether it feels like I can send it until I'm far enough into the process that I would really have to start committing to it. But that's usually pretty far into the process at this point for me. I'm curious how this feels to you coming from sport climbing, because I think in sport climbing, it's a lot more like your first couple times up the route, you're really just commuting. You're maybe like grabbing all the draws. I don't even touch all the holds my first time up a sport route, you know, whereas with the boulder problem, like
Right.
you can learn most of the boulder problem like pretty quickly, right? Have you noticed that it's different for you?
Well, I just haven't spent much time bouldering, so I can't do much comparing and contrasting. But the experience for me, just kind of on the broad view, is that everything that I've tried, I think, or that I've like gone into trying as a sport climb, I've had the confidence and kind of the expectation that I'd be able to do it. So I haven't yet FA'd like a sport route and just been like, I wonder if this move is possible. And while I've set bold goals for myself, my first 13A, I had done a 12D. It wasn't like I was a 5'9" climber and was like, 13A is the proj or whatever. Like it was a bold goal because it had very little pyramid, but it was also like the next grade up on the ladder that I had built. With bouldering, it's a little bit more ambitious. I'm saying, I want to climb a V8, and the hardest thing I've done outside is like a V4, maybe a V5. So that's like a larger jump, but I still feel like I can achieve it. So yeah, I don't know. It's a kind of a wandering answer there. I mean, in terms of the process, when I get on a hard sport route, to your point, yes, I'm like clipping up and bolt to bolt and just touching holds and trying individual moves. And it doesn't feel like at that moment, like, oh, I can climb this. In fact, usually it feels like I am not capable of doing this, but then you just, beat it into submission or whittle it down or whatever for however long your process is. And all of a sudden you're making links and it does feel possible. And then that's when it gets exciting. But like to Brian's original question, with Mark Hudon, and I haven't heard that interview yet, but I'm assuming he said like, we're going to do the Salathe, but we know we're not going to be able to free it. Is there a version of that for a boulder or a route climber? Maybe there's like a super inspiring route that I find where there's like 2 bolts of 14D, but the rest of it is just like really epic and gorgeous. And maybe I'm just like, yeah, I just want to experience this route. I'm about to go out to Squamish. Like maybe I'll go experience a couple bolts of Dreamcatcher or something like that to just feel close to greatness, knowing that I won't send it.
I have firsthand knowledge that the first couple bolts of Dreamcatcher are very, very hard.
Yeah, totally. Like the slab and that, like the whole thing's really hard. That's not a good example.
Yeah, this slab is not easy.
Right. That's not the best example.
Yeah, I think the takeaway there, maybe the broad takeaway is like to just take it on faith that you're going to be better in the future than you are now and invest in that eventuality. Like if you're doing, this is going to be a theme of this podcast, I think, based on the questions. If you're hitting all the right buttons and you're doing the right things and you're climbing, like you're progressing, right? It's hard to tell, but if you're kind of doing the right stuff, you're definitely getting better. And so take some ambitious swings, don't spend all your time doing that. But if there's something that you want to do, like there's no reason not to do it. Something really big that I've noticed in my bouldering is the tipping point where I go from like, I'm kind of dinking around on this to, oh, I'm going to try to do this now. Like, I think I'm going to actually invest energy to do this. It comes later and later and later in the process, the more beyond my, like what I thought I could do I get, and the closer to my genetic potential I get. When I was trying my first V8 and V9 and V10, it was like, I'm dinking around. Oh, I'm kind of sending it now. Oh, I did it. It's like pretty fast. It's like a few days for that whole process. But now it's like, I'll put like 10 days into a project. And then after 10 days, I'm like, oh, I think maybe I could actually do this, Mm-hmm. And so you just get comfortable with those first 10 days being more about going out climbing, trying to learn something about the problem, trying to learn something about what you might need to eventually do it. And maybe those 10 days are spread over a season. Maybe they're spread over 7 or 8 years. I've had plenty of projects like that. And then when I finally do it, I'm like, I kind of can't believe actually what the starting point for this was, but I'm glad that I started trying it when I did, because now I've completed the arc. And if I waited until I was good enough, it's like, who knows how long it would have taken,
Yeah, there's a real wisdom that comes with experiencing that kind of in more potent little bits as you did when you're doing your first 8 or 9, and then now like you just kind of, you become trained, or I guess you become like acclimated to recognizing that process. Yeah, cool. Thank you. I like that perspective. All right, let's keep jamming here. Will says, can you talk a little bit about fear of falling while outdoor bouldering and strategies for safety in the mental game? And then he continues, most fear of falling discussions is about roped climbing, and sometimes I get scared outside, even with many pads and not on high balls. LOL. Oh man, you and me too, yeah. Will. You know where there aren't top outs? At my gym or on my kilter board. You know where there are top outs? Everywhere 100%. Else outside. I'm like terrified of topping out on boulders. So I appreciate the question, Will.
100%. I'm glad you started there, because it's normal. I think he's totally right. Will is totally right that most of the talk of fear of falling is about sport climbing, but just go into any modern bouldering gym and like watch what's going on. And you're definitely going to see people in the bouldering area getting super scared, getting up high, panicking. Like that's a very normal part of bouldering. I think we all kind of get habituated to seeing professional athletes in Africa doing dynos like 20 feet off the ground. And we sort of think like, oh, why am I not like that? Why can't I just like send it with my feet 20 feet off the ground? Well, you're probably normal. And the people who are doing that in the video are probably a little bit less normal. So fear of falling, totally okay. There should be no shame about it. There should be no hiding it or like feeling bad about it. It's something that we have to tackle head on, just like we do with fear of falling in lead climbing, right? And the approach is very similar. You need exposure and you need to have the actual skills to like back up not feeling.
All right, my friends, this seems like a fair place here to do this dreaded fade out of the free intro, but just think about all the value that you got from the first part of this conversation with Jesse. Think about how thoughtful he was as he's answering these questions. And now think about him answering 7 more. Actually, we had some bonus questions. So like 11 more questions we get into in this pro clinic, which you can get free access to with a free trial over on Patreon. Let me tell you what we talk about. We talk about managing fear of falling and fear of injuries and how to alleviate some of those fears before we pull on at the gym and out at the crag. We talk about topping out. Speaking of fear of falling and fear of injuries, this one really resonated for me. We don't just talk about topping out and how to properly top out, if you will, but also specific drills that we can do to help us have much more confidence and much more success when we are climbing rocks outside, and topping out is one of those keys to that. How to overcome biases and refresh our training and our performance. Biases being like the way that we train because we've read about it in a book recently or we heard about it on a podcast. Now you can refresh your biases by listening to new biases. What else do we talk about? The importance of trying easy problems in a variety of different ways. What happens when you feel like you've peaked as a climber? How about that? Think about that. At some point in time, we will have peaked. Maybe we already did. Probably already didn't. But at some point, we will have already peaked. Then what happens? How to improve at technique if we don't have a coach. And going along with that, we talk about using video, like for a self-technique review, utilizing video for that. Oh, this was a good one. This was I thought really insightful. When testing various metrics is helpful versus a waste of time. I'm talking like finger strength and max pull-up and these kinds of things. Jesse has a really interesting perspective on testing, or not testing, as it were. Crossover from boulder to sport and sport to bouldering. The value of replicating your project at the gym, specific drills he recommends in order to build capacity as a boulderer, how to improve if you can only get in 2 days per week. The Struggle is carbon neutral in partnership with the Honnold Foundation and is a proud member of the Plugtone Audio Collective, a diverse group of the best, most impactful podcasts in the outdoor industry. This show was produced and hosted by me, Ryan Devlin, and edited by Glenn Walker. All right, what are you waiting for? Pop over to Patreon and listen to the rest of this Banger Pro Clinic. I hope your training and your climbing are going great. And you know what? If you're struggling like me, well, let's just remember that the struggle makes us stronger. I'll see y'all.